Everybody, I'm Tanita, and first of all, I want to thank you, History Lessons, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity for presenting a lecture. So, today I will be talking about identifying Mughal and Rajasthani miniature painting. A Mughal and Rajasthani miniature painting is not the first miniature painting that came to India, and there are certain similarities and differences between these two types of miniature paintings that we'll be looking forward in this. So let's start. When we listen to the word miniature, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? So the word miniature has came from a Latin word meaning minium, which means red lead. Now, the medieval people used this red lead to paint the miniature paintings. From there, it came the word as miniature paintings or miniature. But in Indian perspective, miniature means minute detailings in the painting. The miniature paintings started in India from the late 8th to the mid 9th century and is known as the Eastern Indian painting. Later it came to the western parts where it is known as the western miniature paintings or the Jain illustrations, and all these Jain illustrations are mainly painted on the life of the Jain Tirthankaras. Two of the Jain illustration examples are Kalpasutra and the Kalakacharya Katha. But miniature paintings, even though it came in the late 8th century, but miniature painting started to grow under the Mughal era under Akbar, and it has reached its peak under Emperor Jahangir. After that, under the reign of Shah Jahan, it started to decline, and under Aurangzeb, it almost declined, and all the painters of the Mughal court dispersed to the different parts of the country, from where the later miniature paintings started to evolve, like the Rajasthani, the Pahari, the Basholi, and so on. The four major school of miniature paintings that are considered are the Mughal school, Deccani school, Rajasthani school, and the Pahari school, from where we will be discussing about the Mughal school and the Rajasthani school. The history of the painting is glorious and it helps us understand the past. In what ways is that some of the historical texts or the literary texts are not there. Then the paintings are used as a source of historical reference to know or to identify or to get a clear picture of the then society. So the Mughal school of miniature painting started from the 16th century to the 18th century, and it is a combination of an Indo-Persian style of painting. It mainly, as we have talked earlier, that it mainly started under the reign of Akbar, where Akbar wanted to add a third dimension to the paintings which were not there previously, and he also wanted to get rid of the Persian rigidity that is shown in the paintings. And one of the main features of the Mughal miniature paintings is the Persian calligraphy on its border, or sometimes a flower motif is also seen in the borders. Though the color palettes are used for the paintings are very light in shade, though you have seen some references where dark colors are used, use of gold and silvers were also be done in the paintings. But one of the interesting facts is that the Mughal miniatures were not meant to be framed. They were mostly used as book illustrations or as or were drawn or painted in the palm leaves or sometimes clothes and so on. The colors that were used in the paintings were almost made naturally, though we have seen some of the examples later on we will be seeing, or you might have seen if you have visited the museums or seen some illustrations in books. Watercolors were used that were not made naturally, but most of the colors, most of the times, they were made naturally. And a wide variety and number of themes were used, but the most popular of them was portraiture, hunting scenes, war scenes, natural beauty, sometimes representation of women. But what was striking under Mughal miniature was under Jahangir, he was a different type of viewer. He always wanted to add something more to the paintings. So under him we have seen the evolution of human figures. Sometimes we have seen flora and fauna which were not there in the previous paintings. A third dimension which started under Akbar, but we have seen a bit of a more advancement in the paintings of Jahangir. And another interesting fact is that the Mughal miniature paintings were drawn in 3 stages, which were seen in the later miniature paintings as well, but it started under the Mughal miniatures. That first, one painter used to draw the outlines and the borders, the second painters used to add colors, and the third painter used to see what are the what else can be added to it to give it perfection. And lastly, the master painters used to give the final touches to the paintings. Next, we will be seeing some examples. So the first is this painting. This painting is titled as Madonna and Child. It is a Mughal miniature painting and it is an early 17th century painting. There are very simple characteristics of this painting by which you can identify that it is a Mughal miniature painting. The characteristic features that you will be seeing, or you will see, or you will use it as your reference, is the materials. Though you cannot always determine, or you cannot always find what are the materials that are used in the painting, but you can get an idea of it by looking at it. And the colors, the style, the techniques, and most importantly, the color palettes, the borders, all these things, and so on. So the characteristic features that we'll be seeing in these paintings are the face of Madonna has minute details in it. If you look it closely, you can see that Madonna here, the eyes, the face, you can feel her softness in the painting, that she is caring for a child. You can feel what she is feeling. And then you can, as I have talked earlier, that a third dimension to the paintings. You can see that it is not flat and rigid. You can feel the Mughal miniatures. What I feel like is that it is less of a painting and more of a photograph, like that moment is captured in the frame. Then Persian calligraphy is used in the border, which is another factor of the Mughal miniature painting. You can see both at the top and the bottom, the Persian calligraphy is used, which is another feature that is to be used, or you can see as a reference to identify these miniature paintings. And then the color palette and the stylistic features. You can think that it is more of a European influence in it. Yes, there is a European influence, but it's more like of a synthesis of the Persian art or the Mughal art with the synthesis of European art, because the way Madonna is dressed here, or Mother Mary, if we say like that, the way the woman is dressed in here has a synthesis of both Mughal attire and the European attire. Both are mixed, and the caring for the child, and even if you look at the color, the gold is used. Though we have seen the use of gold in Mughal miniature paintings, in some of the Mughal miniature paintings, but here the gold is somewhat describing about the synthesis of the Persian culture along with the European influence in it. Now, moving on to the next picture. This is a very interesting picture. Now, as you have discussed earlier about that under Jahangir, the portrait of birds and animals, flora and fauna. So one can identify that this painting belongs to Jahangir's era or Jahangir's court. This is titled as Black Buck and the Doe. It is a Mughal painting and it is the late 17th century painting, and this is the collection of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja Vastu Sangrahalaya, Mumbai. And you can see the characteristics features of the painting. So the first is that it is the painting of under Emperor Jahangir. And why? Because it has a scientifically accurate and lifelike paintings on animals that were illustrated. If we see closely, then this is the black buck and this is the doe. And the next is flower motif. As we have talked, that either it's calligraphy or it's flower motif. In very lesser of the paintings, we have seen a plain border, though that is very less, and that were almost seen under the letter ruler. So if you see it closely, I don't know how it is been seen, but it is a flower motif that is in the borders. And lastly is a very light color palette is used. You can see the subtle tones, the pastel shades. And moving on to the Rajasthani miniature painting. So after the decline of the Mughal miniature, the painters that were under the Mughal court dispersed to the different parts of the country, and some of these painters came to Rajasthan and started to work under Rajasthani court that were known as the Rajasthani court painters. And during the late 16th and the early 17th century, Rajasthani painting developed under the royal courts of Rajputana in India. Though these paintings didn't use a variety of colors, but very bold colors were used like red, yellow, blue, green, white, sometimes golden and silvers were also used. The interesting fact here is that the Rajasthani painting developed under 4 main schools, and from there it has many artistic styles under those schools like Mewar, Marwar, Hadoti, Dundur. These are the 4 main schools or the 4 principal schools of Rajasthani miniature painting. And under each school, there are several artistic or stylistic features which had differences but which also had similarities. But so first, there are Mughal and Rajasthani miniature painting which had differences and similarities. Now we are seeing Rajasthani school of miniature paintings which has 4 schools under them, which also has certain stylistic features, and that stylistic features have certain similarities and differences between them. As all the Rajasthani states were ruled by Mughals, so we almost see a Mughal influence in most of the paintings. And there were a variety of themes in these paintings as well, like epics like Mahabharata, Ramayana, story of Lord Krishna, Ragamala paintings on these hunting scenes. But above all these things, the most important and the most favorite theme of Rajasthani painting was the love story of Radha and Krishna. So there are some examples. We had discussed earlier about the 4 Rajasthani school of paintings, which has certain similarities and differences between them. Let's see one of these examples. This is Bani Thani. It is a Krishnagढ़ miniature which comes under Marwar school of painting. This you can find in the collection of National Museum, New Delhi. Now, you might be asking that how can I know that it is a Krishnagढ़ style of miniature painting? What are the stylistic features that we should be looking forward? Special stylistic feature of Krishnagढ़ style is that its attractive physique. If you look closely, you can see a little bit of a 3 dimension to the painting around its physique. Next is the blue aura-like bunch of hair. And the next is face of the Bani Thani. Now you can see arched eyebrows, long elongated eyes, thin lips, a pointed nose, and a cold embellished eye. Women in this style are always fair in complexion, and Krishnagढ़ school is always famous for Bani Thani paintings. So in most of the paintings of Krishnagढ़ miniature style, we can see Bani Thani, and in even some of the paintings we can see Radha as Bani Thani. You can instantly identify with this pointed nose, this elongated eyes, sometimes thin lips, arched eyebrows, attractive physique. Now if you look at the next example, then you can see it is a painting is titled as A Little Lady Drinking Wine, and this is the Rajasthani school of painting. It is a late 18th century and it also belongs to the collection of National Museum, New Delhi. Now the characteristic features that we'll be seeing in these paintings are that, as we have discussed earlier, Rajasthani paintings should have plain borders, and here is such example. You can see a plain red border is used in the border of the painting, and as you have seen in the previous painting, that it has an attractive physique, but will be differ in this painting. See that it has a more flattering 2D flatter picture that does not have an attractive physique. You can just resemble now with the first painting that we have seen under the Mughal miniature and this painting. You can see there the bodies or the face, as I have said, that it is more of a photograph than of a painting, because you can see what she is feeling. But if you see this painting closely, you can see that you cannot feel what she is feeling. It is 2D, it is flatter, but it is beautiful. And bold colors are used like yellow, red, orange, green. Now, when we have seen all the paintings, there are certain exceptions, still certain exceptions. We will see two of these examples. As I have discussed earlier, in the Mughal miniatures, there is always going to be minute details. A light color palettes is used. In the border, there will be calligraphy or flower motifs. If you see this picture, it is a collection of National Museum, New Delhi. It is titled as The Princely Lovers. You will be differ of what you have seen or what you have learned earlier. In this painting, if you see carefully, then you can see that the minute details are missing. It is more of a 2D and flatter picture. There is no third dimension added to. Even the proportion in the painting, the proportion in the figures are not the same. In the background, very dark shaded colors are used, mostly gray or black. And in the front, in the attire of the princely lovers and their attendants, bold colors are used like yellow and orange that are, and even red, that are not seen in other paintings that we have discussed earlier. And now for the Rajasthani paintings, we have seen a 2D and more flatter, bold colors are used, red border is there. But if you see this picture, this is a painting from the Ragamala series titled as the Ragini Ramkali collection of Indian Museum, Kolkata. Here you can see, if you look carefully at the background of the painting, you can see minute details, very subtle tones are used. You can feel what she is feeling in the paintings, even though she has a pointed nose and a 2D flatter painting. But you can feel that she is very upset on his lover, who is very much sorry for what he have done and begging forgiveness, and she is a little bit of angry on his lover. That you can feel in this painting. When you see in the borders that red color is not used. So with this, I'll be ending my session here. Now, if you look at any painting in a museum or in a book illustration, you will take your time and you will try to identify before seeing or looking at the label. And if you have any question or any query, you can let us know in the comment section. And if you have liked this video, please hit like and please share, and don't forget to subscribe History Lessons. Thank you.